2, 1. You've found AHO Radio. We're authentic human outliers coming together to help heal the fear of being authentic. To bring back genuine human conversation. No hype, no sensationalism, just honest talk about the critical issues affecting society, affecting humankind. And now, here are the hosts of AHO Radio, John Krotec and Bill Protzmann. Hey, John, greetings from the left coast, man.
Yeah, the left coast. You know, I'm on the left coast in Florida, aren't I?
I hope so.
Isn't that the kind of, yeah, I mean, yeah, yes, greetings. Here I am in my backyard, so much to be grateful for. And I'm glad to be on another episode of AHO Radio with you, Bill, because I know that when you discuss songs, it's worth listening to. And
well, John, you brought this one up, man, and it grabbed my attention right away. Bob Dylan. So Dylan's been around like forever, man. He's like our national troubadour in some ways.
Like the sage of the eternal troubadours, you know.
What does he won? A Nobel Prize? Not a Nobel Prize. Pulitzer? He won something like for being this incredible. It's the first time it's ever happened. I've got notes. Nobel Prize. Hello. He won a Nobel Prize for literature in 2016, dude.
He's an amazing writer and lyricist, and yeah, I'm really excited about the show today. You know,
cool. We'll put the song in the notes. I mean, with respect. So it's Dylan, but we're not going to use your stuff, dude, because we're not going to play it live without a license to do that. So we'll put it in the show notes. People can go and listen. Gotta Serve Somebody. What a great song from his gospel period. And it's obvious because the refrain is you gotta choose who you're going to serve, people. It may be the devil or it may be the Lord. But so check.
Still gotta serve somebody. Yeah,
got to serve somebody. I mean, you're not. There's no excuse. You can't just get up one day and say, I'm going to do everything I do today. I'm going to do for myself or something like that. You're still serving somebody. So this song is about, it's like a challenge. But how you heard it for the first time? What did it do to you, man?
Well, I heard it back in the day when it first came out. I was a Dylan fan, kind of. My sisters basically turned me on to him back in the day, and the lyrics struck me. They cut like they hit my heart, just like what you just said. All these different professions he outlines, all these people,
everybody, man.
I mean, everybody. That's how deep it is. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's so apparent now also during COVID-19 pandemic too, in this isolation, but at the end of the day, you got to serve somebody. What's that lyric? It may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody.
You got to serve somebody. And the idea of choosing is I think for me the central point of this. So obviously Dylan's got a bias and he's calling out all the people he doesn't like, but he's including some of the people that he does. There's a line in there about a guy named RJ, and that's Raymond J. Johnson, a comedian from the time. Who knows why Dylan picked him? And I don't know if you may call me Ray, you may call me RJ. I mean, are these other people that are real life people? Who knows? But that's the only verse where he reflects back on himself.
Yeah, and I think he pulls out a dishwasher.
Oh, he's
he pulls out a man that owns women in a cage or something, and
the military, the fat cat bureaucrats, the bankers,
the greedy business people. Yeah, I mean, it's all in there.
And he's clearly on the side of the little man. I mean, he doesn't like the establishment. This song is not about the establishment, but it's a good foil, right? It's a good foil for the point, which is you got to choose. You just can't approach this unconsciously.
And we've talked about that many, many times in the past, and what this current situation in the world, about being locked up, and not locked up, but in isolation, basically. It's like being locked up, but and then starting to really figure out and contemplate what's truly important for each of us. And you said it on a past show that this power of choice that we've got, the power to choose.
Yeah.
And regardless of what anybody says, every single human being has a choice on anything they do in their life. Unless, of course, you give up your rights and you make it to prison and then you give up some rights. But you still had a choice to do that. And even how you react under those circumstances, you still have a choice. So like you just said, live your life. I was thinking about it the other day when we were talking about this song. I forget what we were talking about, fear and sacredness. And live your life. Go out there and live it any way you want to live it. Choose your profession. Choose the way you act in society. Choose the way you act behind closed doors. But remember,
yeah, you're going to be serving somebody.
There's this karmic element to Dylan's song. Of course, he mentions the Lord, but the Lord is a master. And I know who I want my master to be. It's certainly not a devil, and that's a choice I make.
Well, I have an interesting sort of slant on that whole refrain, and the words are, you're gonna have to serve somebody. Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. I have my question about that is, does he think it's an either or choice? Because and does it have to be a permanent choice? Like it's a flip flop. You go through your life, and there are times where you're serving one thing and times where you're serving the other. But is it always a binary choice? I think that's the challenge of the song. And okay, so look, this is a Grammy-winning song, the Best Male Vocal 1979. So this is an inspired song. It's pretty simple musically, but the words they really get to you. They get under your skin. It's like an earworm. It gets in your ear, right?
And it's a great point you bring up. I think it goes back and forth at times in your life. And I'll be the first to admit, I never claim sainthood.
Oh yeah, you and Bobby too. I think Dylan is not saying that.
I will claim broken angel. Yeah. That's my status. And I know who I desire to serve. Now, does that mean that I'm always going to be there? I think that, Bill, that's a great point you bring up, because I think that the more and more you practice good choices in your life, the more it becomes second nature. Does that make any sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense. I mean, you can go with the flow or you can swim against the current. What are you going to do? And that's a different flow and current for every one of us. I mean, we hope that there's some general unity of like flowing downstream is a good thing and, fighting the current is a bad thing. But there are times where you have to fight the current. Like when you're getting out in front of, a bunch of people and stating your position, which is not popular. That's a tough thing. But if it's in your heart and you have to do that and you're bucking the current, well, that's what you need to do. And I see that as like an implied choice, but I also see Dylan being very authentic and saying, hey, this might all be what you have to do. But just know that somewhere inside of you, you're choosing. Whether you're choosing with your wallet or walking with your feet or whatever it is that you're doing, you are making a choice. What's the choice that you want? And he never asks that question. He never says what his particular opinion is. I mean, we can see that he, there's things he doesn't like, but he never says, do this. And I think that's the magic of it. A preacher comes out and says, you got to believe this. Dylan's not doing that.
No, he's not.
He's just bringing up the options, right?
Some of the best advice that my dad ever gave me, God rest his soul, he's gone now. It was right before I went all the way to college. As a young guy, I was 18 years old. Never been on my own away from the house. And he said, son, you're gonna meet a lot of people in college. And he said, just watch who you hang out with. And I'm relating it to this song. Of course, I didn't listen to him. I was a rebellious 18-year-old that,
of course, weren't we all, man? That's what we did.
Yeah, spent a lot of time doing things I probably shouldn't have done. But the point is that I look back on that now, and had I paid more attention to his advice about serving somebody, if I had made some of those choices and not ended up so inebriated at the party, and I may have been able to extract a more rewarding experience. Then again, it's who it's what defined me, or what not defined me, but it was my own experience. But I think it goes back to choice again. And what you point out, which is so not apropos, so aptly true, is that it is tougher sometimes to stand by a conviction that may not be what everybody else is doing. And sometimes those convictions are the right path, the right path anyways for that particular person at that crossroads. But it takes real courage to be you, to live by your muse.
Yeah, it does.
And to be not like everybody else.
The ability that we have with social media and every other way we communicate to be judgmental these days,
oh my gosh,
is a little bit frightening, and it puts you in a place where you start to judge yourself all the time instead of like being kind to yourself, the way we were talking about in the Poets Corner. We get in this place where we're always judging what we do. And there's a point where discernment is a good thing, and it's good to know the difference between what serves you and what doesn't. And at the core of that, yes, there's stuff that's righter, and yes, there's stuff that's wronger. But the process of life is about knowing the difference. It's not about how many votes you made on one side or the other. It's about that navigating the space between the two. And if nothing else about this song on a subconscious level, that's the thing that really got to me. It's like Dylan's showing us the two guardrails on the road and just saying, you know what, you're going down the road. You're going to
whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. So, be conscious. He's not saying serve somebody. He's saying you're going to have to, and it's up to you. Like you are going to have to. You're going to have to figure out, how this works for you. And that's sort of like the between the lines message for me, I find really hopeful. And it's inspiring in that way that you can't quite put your finger on it, but it gets into you. Like
it's kind of, that's a dig song, man. I can
dude.
Yeah.
I put it on. I was doing a bunch of repetitive stuff at the computer. I put the song on repeat. I must have listened to it 30 times or something. And it gets into you. It gets into you. And, good music does that. Good music does that. But this is like good message. Nothing hard about the music. It's a minor blues, right? It's 3 chords, whatever. But oh my gosh, it's poetry.
It reminds me, it's hypnotic, like Zeppelin's Kashmir.
Right.
And a difference, it's a monotonous, but monotonous in a really cool, effective way. And choice that we keep bringing up, and I remember my wife, when you talk about social media and the reasons why people would want to provoke others, it's okay. I like to provoke thought, but provoking people to anger and animosity not in my wheelhouse. And my wife told me she's always schooling me on something, and it's a good thing. I'm glad she's with me. I can tell you this, that she said, every time you point the finger at somebody, there's 4, if you want to call a thumb a finger, there's 4 of them pointing back at you. Yeah. So when you want to serve that somebody,
keep in mind where they're pointing.
Think about who's watching you.
Yeah.
Or what karmic force of the universe is keeping, I don't want to say score, because then that gets into a whole other subject, but think about the power of choice and the power of moments and who you're serving. And again, like you just mentioned, which is pretty cool, that Dylan's not telling you who to serve. He's just telling you.
Yeah, he's just telling it. That
you got to serve. You will serve.
Poets, artists, musicians, writers, it's their job to offer a mirror that we can look into and say, well, and what is the famous quote there? But for the grace of God, go I. You can look in that mirror and say, hey, Dylan, you got something here. I got to think about this. Even if that thought is just an earworm that sticks in your head, and you never really ever consciously give it space in your cerebral cortex, it's in there. It's like that song's in there. Like we were talking when this song came up, I forget what it was, and you got triggered on this song. It's like, yeah, what's that Dylan song? You got to serve somebody. Yeah. So it's been in there since 1979 or 78, whenever it came out. And that's the kind of stuff,
Yeah, I had just in 1979 when I first heard that song, I had just gotten back from an exchange program in Switzerland through FSU's hospitality department. And I remember hearing that song, and I remember thinking all the stuff that I was involved in at that time, hellacious partying and just doing stupid stuff every time most 19-year-olds go through. And I just it just resonated with me. And when we were talking the other day about sacredness and this loss of sacredness or the spirituality in today's existence with all this technology, it reminded me of that song. And I know you as a freaking song lover extraordinaire, I knew you were going to take it because you're the dissector of music. And that's why I love the music corner that we've hooked up, because music is it's the elixir, it's the universal language that can soothe the soul, and on so many different levels. And that Dylan has been soothing souls for a long time.
Oh man, the guy is, I don't know how many words he's written, 370 songs, probably more than that, probably closer to 400 by now. That's a lot. That's a lot of
Well, those are songs that he's published. Can you imagine his books? He's probably got he's probably got 40,000 songs
that he hasn't let out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty smart. I don't think Dylan's his last real name. I think he took that from Dylan Thomas. Somebody told me the other day that he was raised like in Wisconsin or Minnesota or something. And I don't even know what his real last name is. I'm sure it's on Wikipedia, but he loved Dylan Thomas, if you know that about Bob Dylan. And so he absconded his second name, and it fits because Bob Dylan is by far one of the luminaries of the modern age. And I think he's been around for centuries.
Oh man. Yeah. He's the troubadour. He's the incarnation of the troubadour that we need in our age. Over what now? 3 generations?
Yeah. He's phenomenal. So yeah, what a great treat to discuss Bob Dylan on AHO Radio, Bill.
Yeah. And hey, Bobby, if you're listening, we love your stuff, man. Thank you for your influence in the world.
Absolutely. Couldn't think of a better guy to give an accolade to. And I'm going to keep jamming to it.
Yeah, I'm going to keep jamming to it too. I wish I could play it to take us out. It's just like, it's the music is that good, people. So find it. It's called You Gotta Serve Somebody. And we'll post it in the show notes. YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
AHO.
AHO. Thank you for joining us on this episode of AHO Radio. Information we mentioned is probably in the show notes, but if we missed anything, please let us know and we'll get it added for you. Subscribe to the AHO Radio channel on YouTube to stay connected, and as always, we wish you health, success, and significance. AHO!
AHO!
AHO!